So I got this thing. Gabby and I had a great moment today in the car.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to claim that it was great.
All right.
So I've been trying to... I made a comment. I was like, man, I just really wish that I had more friends. Because like we had all of my songs on shuffle that I've saved on my phone. And so an Under Oath song came up. And I was like, man, I wish I had more friends that liked this kind of music, you know, hard rock, heavy metal kind of thing with some screaming and yelling and growls and all that fun stuff. And she was like, well, why do you need... You know, like, why do you need a friend that likes that kind of stuff? Like, why can't you just like it? You know, just
listen to it on your own.
Yeah, like just, you know, starting conversation, whatever. And I was like, well, I just, it's nice to be able to hit somebody up, or, you know, when a new song comes out or something that I've been feeling like a really cool breakdown or whatever. It's nice to be able to shoot those people a message with the song in there and be like, hey man, check this out, and know that they're going to listen to it and actually enjoy it on the level that I enjoy it.
Or the fact that they'll actually end up listening to it.
Right. And that, you know, like, hey, this is the part that I find cool. And so I wish I had more people that I can be like, yeah, this is awesome. Because I listen to some hard stuff. It's all, you know, Christian metal. It's like has a positive message that when you listen, if you look up the lyrics and stuff.
Yeah, it's just at face value.
At face value, if you were to listen to it, it's like, you know, my dad always calls it devil music. He's joking around. He's always calling it devil music. And it's like, you know, they're literally talking about God. They're literally talking about, you know, the struggles of being a Christian and all this kind of stuff. And yet, because they're yelling about it,
then
and the music is heavy, then it comes off as whatever. So we were in the car, and I was like, you know what? Like, some of this stuff is just super cool. And I showed her a little bit of an Under Oath album, Lost in the Sound of Separation, which is probably my favorite album of all time.
Now, what were her thoughts?
And so she was like, I like what they're doing as artists. Like, musicianally, I like what they're doing. But the screaming and the, you know, the vocals is what kind of takes me out of it. Separates it.
I was that way when I first was introduced to, like, the Devil's Wear Prada in, like, middle school. I was like, I love the instruments and stuff. It's just the screaming and the growls. It just puts me out. But, you know, fast forward to now, and I eat that up.
Yeah, well, I think it's an acquired taste. I mean, because I had to start my way into metal by, like, you know, listening to, oh, what is that band? Him.
Okay.
Yeah, so, like, it was, like, some, you know, there are some bands that are not like straight, you know, Avenged Sevenfold kind of thing where you're not screaming, but there are moments where they do. And I worked my way into Under Oath, and
like
then
Slipknot.
Yeah, and then Under Oath where they're just, but it's not like heavy double bass. It's not heavy, you know, heavy metal. And then once I found August Burns Red, that was a wrap. I was like, I'm listening to August Burns Red since the Messengers album. And once I found that, I was like, nope, this is it. And I like this kind of music, musicianally, artistly, but then also artistly. Also, the vocalist, Jake, he has incredible vocals. I mean, some of the screams, and then he can go from like low to high in a matter of seconds. And they're on their tour, they did a song, and he did like, I would say probably a 55 to minute long, like, one continuous scream.
Whoa.
It was crazy. And it was like low. It was like it was long, dude. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane.
It's nice when you come to accept the things that, like, you just realize, like, yeah, okay, this is the stuff I'm into.
Yeah, well, and that's, you know, I love having those people that I can share, you know, because I really think sharing music and playlists, and, you know, because I'm a very mood music kind of person, and so depending on my mood, if I'm in a certain mood and I'm sharing music with someone, that's also allowing that person to tap into the emotions that I'm feeling at the time.
You also wonder, like, how they'll
receive it.
Yeah.
And so when I share music with you, I know that I can share, you know, an August Burns Red song that has a sick breakdown, or a Devil Wears Prada song that has, you know, like Big Wiggly Style has a super big opening, and it's just like, you know, yeah. And I know that if I share that with you, you'll appreciate it the way that I do. But if I were to share like an Under Oath song with my mom, she'd be like, what is this? What are you doing? It's like, I'm just feeling introspective and kind of, and she's like, I don't get that though. And I'm like, but listen to like track 11 on this album. and because there's any, and it's like, no, I'm like, oh, come on, man. Like it's melodic and it's
Right.
thought provoking. And
The best thing was the other week, I was listening to some Band of Horses, and I went on to search them in Apple Music, and I saw that they had put out their most recent release was a single in like the late 2018, and they did a remix to their song "No One's Gonna Love You More Than I Do," but in Spanish, but only the chorus is in Spanish, and the rest of the lyrics are in English. And then rather than the traditional instruments they are using in that song, they are using like trumpets and these different kind of guitars, and it sounds so beautiful. Like it's a really nice take on like Mexican kind of like traditional music like that. And I was listening to it, and my dad, he's like, "Oh, what are you listening to? Like that sounds like Mexican music." I'm like, "Well, kinda." And so he's like, "Oh, send me the link to that." So he's into that, and then I caught him listening to like a full-on. They did a recording for like a TV program, and like that's an hour long, and I saw him listening to Band of Horses, so it was cool to see him.
It's that journey, right? And that's how I got my brother listening to August Burns Red. Was they do every year, they'll either, like one year they released an album, but for the years, a couple years past, they've just released singles around Christmas time, and they do metal remixes of Christmas music. And so you have like, and most of it's instrumental, so most of it is they don't sing, but like there's on their album that they released, August Burns Red, it's called, oh man, I don't even remember what it's called. Joy to the World. That song, like they include vocals, and so you have the intro starts off with the music, and then the Joy to the World part comes in, and he comes in just full bore like yelling. It's the greatest thing ever. And I showed my brother that album, and then that's what got him on to August Burns Red, and now he's an ABR fan. And so it's cool to see. I always try and, like, if I know. For instance, I know that someone's not huge into metal. I'll start them off with like a instrumental album. And I'm like, listen to just the instrumentals. Appreciate the instruments for what they are. And then start dabbling in some of their less hard songs to get used to the yelling and the screaming. And then, once you're past that, dude, you'll be hooked, because then it just comes into like to me, I don't even listen to the lyrics anymore. It's just sound. And
that's how I kind of like interpret Devil Wears Prada. Is like I do listen to the lyrics sometimes. I don't know. It's in phases. Like sometimes I'm strictly listening to or I'll have the focus on the lyrics, and other times I'm like focused on the instruments. And then sometimes I'll hear them both, and it's a good time.
Yeah, and I think that specifically back to the sharing music piece. That. When you start sharing your music with someone, that gives you a real intimate, like an intimate look. And like if someone, for instance, if Gabby were to share
her playlist
with me, right? There was one playlist that she actually did share with me, and it wasn't, like a worship playlist. It wasn't, because we share those kind of stuff all the time, because we're both, play for worship team. We're always looking for songs and stuff. And it was it was called, I think, Groove. And it was like some more electronic, like, it was real chill songs, and I was like, oh man, like you like this kind of stuff. And that's when we realized that we both had a shared, and then I showed her Odessa. And then and then I was like, oh, if you like this stuff, you'll love Odessa, you'll love Kygo.
Let me put you on
let me put you on to some stuff. And then she like fell in love with Odessa, and then I even showed her Squad, and she was, about that for a little bit, and it's just
Squad or Squid?
Squid. I always think it's Squad.
It's the way he spells it.
Squid. But yeah, I love that, like that insight into someone and their personality and their likes and dislikes.
Yeah, I think it's a intimate moment when like a friend or significant other like sends you a playlist or tracks to listen to. Like, I think it's a nice moment because you're getting a little insight of what they're into, and I think it says a lot about the kind of like friendship you have with somebody.
Yeah, well, and if you don't have, I mean, because music is such a big part of my life, and so if I'm not able to share the music that I listen to with people, I get excited. I hear a new song and I text my brother and I'm like, oh man, check this out. Or, I want to like share it with people because I like what I'm hearing and I want other people to like what I like. And even if they don't, like, I would just like to know.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on it? How do you feel about emotional attachments to songs?
Oof, I feel it's inevitable, but also sucky when it's a negative emotion.
Yeah.
Like, because there are tracks that I haven't listened to in a long time because it solicits a certain response.
Or you think about a certain thing.
And then you think about a certain time in your life where I'm like, I just don't want to go back to that mind state. But at the same time, some of these tracks are good, and you just got to throw it on, man.
Yeah.
Some of these albums and lately it's a lot has been, I'm the same way with like TV shows now. When Gabby and I we watched like New Girl, or no, it was I can't remember what it was. It was a show that we had watched together, and every time I like see that show, or it makes me want to hang out with her and like watch it together. And then I start looking into like when I see something that I know that she would like, I'm always like, oh my gosh, like check this out. And we started watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and then there was a meme that was like, oh, I can't like say the word nice without being like nice or cool. And so, and her and I do that when we'll be talking, and I have autocorrect, like the keyboard replacement.
Yeah.
So if I type, and this is all one word, I try and do it quick. If I type cool, all one word, and press space, it automatically changes it to like 12 cools. And it's like cool separated by comma, cool. And so, and her and I'll text back and forth, and we do that kind of stuff. So then I saw the meme and shared the meme with her. And that's those kind of moments where I'm like, this is a continuation of our time together. And I saw this meme and thought of you. What do you think?
Right. I think I was telling you about this the other day, but like when you send someone maybe like a playlist or an album, but then like that relationship or connection with somebody goes out, it's kind of hard to like get back into listening to that particular music. Like I was just thinking about it, like I don't talk to this person anymore, and I had sent them a really solid album, and that album came up on my like stream, and I was just like, man, this is kind of like sparking up weird memories, and I almost wish I didn't send that person that stuff because it's just making me think of that stuff. I almost want to like retract back like that link, like you don't deserve my playlist.
Unshare. Well, I always think that, there are certain moments where, these things happen in our lives and we are who we are because of it. And despite maybe that being like a crappy time in your life, it still was a time in your life. It still made you who you are.
And the music's good.
I not necessarily an emotional attachment to like a relationship or something, but when I listen to Under Oath's Lost in the Sound of Separation, I think of Call of Duty World at War Zombies playing that like, is it like Knocked or Toten or whatever?
I never played that one.
Okay. Yeah, so it was like the first, when Zombies was first a thing. It was actually cool. I was like, oh, this is tight. And I would throw that album on in the background, and then me and the friends that I was hanging out with, we would play together, or I would play solo, so every time I listen to that album, those first couple songs, I immediately like go back to hanging out playing Call of Duty. So it's not like an emotional attachment to, but it's funny how music can kind of bind you to certain times of your life.
Yeah. Music is powerful.
Music is such a deep insight to your life that it's so cool to be able to share, but at the same time, those connections sometimes can suck.
I would agree.
Do you ever go back on happy moments?
Like happy music?
Like music that reminds you of happy experiences, or is it always negative?
Well, I mean, not everything I listen to has like those negative emotions. So I would say there is music I listen to that sparks a big old smile. Like listening to Summer Days by Lil Rob always gives me a fat grin on my face.
Really?
Because I just hear the intro and it's just like, man, it's a good time.
I'm that way with old alternative music. Like I had asked you the other day if you listened to My Chemical Romance when you were younger. It was because I listened to a podcast with the lead singer for Panic at the Disco, and Fall Out Boy, Good Charlotte, all of that alternative stuff that when Walkman CD players were thing, and I used to be able to pop a CD in, and I would go to Best Buy and buy like a $7 CD, and would just play the CD from like start to finish on my little Walkman, and then start it over again. And
I would say Panic at the Disco puts me in a joyous mood.
Yeah,
as well.
When I hear
especially
that,
9 in the afternoon.
I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. It gets me going. Gets the motor running. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, I think it's music is crazy. And then especially when you listen to it from like a musician standpoint, when you play, I can't listen to a song that doesn't have a beat.
Like, what do you mean?
Like if there's a song, like for instance, there's some Denzel Curry track that doesn't have like an actual kind of thing.
Okay.
So, yeah, I know it's going to show up on the mic, whatever. It drives me crazy that there's no beat behind it. And I can't listen because I find myself like wanting to, and I want to go with the cadence of the rap or, even like, piano, and, it's a song that just has piano in it and there's no drums or anything like that. Like, I never really like those kind of songs.
Okay.
Because I'm a drummer. And so putting myself in the perspective of, would I want to listen to a song that I'm not involved with if I were to be playing it kind of thing. And that's one of my main problems with music nowadays is they have the same 4 on the floor with the electronica sounds, but it's like Sam Smith singing and playing a guitar. And then he's got like, do, 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 do. It's the same old beat, and then it goes down, and then it goes back up again, and it's like the traditional. All the songs sound the same, so I really gravitate towards music with good drums, which is why I like ABR so much.
I'm not a musician, but I would agree with you on being into music that does have a beat or kind of like a layered structure to it. There are different instruments playing along.
Bad Rabbits is a great example of alternative music with actually like cool drums and like cool instruments.
Yeah, they do their thing.
Yeah, and there's a couple. Even if you were to listen to like some ska, there's some ska bands that are, it's a big band music. So you have drum, guitar, bass, and then the singer. But it's like punk rock, but then they also throw in trumpets and like big brass sections. And
I love hearing jazz and like modern music.
Yeah, that's
anytime I get a saxophone introduction, I'm like,
oh dude, we have 2 people at my church that play saxophone, and we have a saxophone on the worship team like during worship sets. And it is, let me just tell you, it is so cool, man.
I always wanted to learn how to play sax.
That is such a cool instrument because you have these. It's such a unique thing. When you listen to worship music, when you're big into worship music like I am, and you listen to a wide variety, but like all the contemporary modern worship music that's coming out nowadays, it all sounds the same. They use the same kind of sustained music with basic drums and guitar and lyric, all that kind of stuff. And then when we get to do worship, if we were to ever record an album and then throw like a saxophone in there, like that's not being done. That's it's so cool to me. It is being done in older stuff, but
right.
We'll switch gears here a little bit. What are your thoughts on the current climate of relationships according to like Twitter and according to social media?
It's interesting because around the summertime is when you start to see a lot of relationship posts, and it's either people that are looking to do their thing in the summer and be single and just kind of mingle around, or those that are looking to get booed up for the summer.
I was reading something, or it was like I wasn't even on Twitter. I was on Instagram, but basically Instagram memes are Twitter screenshots that they post to Instagram. And
that's how it goes.
There was one that was like, something about getting tired of of having to cheat, and was like, I just wish that my boyfriend would like catch me so that I can go hang out with this other guy.
Wow.
And I was like, wait a minute. Like, you're the one that's cheating.
Right.
And you want out of the relationship, so get out of the relationship. Don't make the guy break up with you just so that you don't look like a bad person.
I mean, she'll always look
Of
bad
course,
regardless.
that's us as sane people thinking about this. But
she's looking at it like, oh, if I get caught, then,
like,
the jig is
man,
up.
it's like the Michael Scott. Oh, again, you don't watch The Office because you live under a rock. The Michael Scott, he's like, man, I can't wait to see the guy and look the guy in the face and that's making me cheat on his wife, because he's the mistress in the situation. And so it's like that mentality of like, man, I just, why do you got to go and make me cheat on you? It's like, wait a minute.
Why is it being justified?
This logic is twisted. Like Twitter itself, that's crazy.
It's crazy because of how often the stuff gets shared. So clearly people are in agreement with like whatever's getting posted.
Yeah, we're not talking about a handful of people. I mean, some of these tweets are getting 28,000, 100,000 retweets. So you know that at least 100,000 people are like, no, I
can get down with that.
I can get down with that. Like, oh man, I relate to that.
I'm going to share that.
What meme did you pull up? You had a meme earlier. It was like,
it was like when my boyfriend is changing the Netflix movie and I have to like text my side dude. And it's like a little video of like some kid being sneaky.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, you don't have to, if you realize that that's the position that you're in. I mean, if you look at most men who cheat on their wives, right? They're not posting to social media like, oh man.
Well, I don't know about that because I've seen the inverse of like guys saying like, oh, when your side piece takes a picture of you, but your girlfriend follows her. So it's bad on all fronts.
I mean, I'm not saying this to men and women. I'm saying older relationships when a guy is cheating on his wife and has like a wife and kids and he's cheating on his wife with somebody. He's not out there like, oh man, with his wife, like he would never be with his wife and be like, posting social media like, man, I'm hanging out with the wife, but I really wish I was with my side piece kind of thing. Cause he has so much to lose.
Oh yeah, there's
so much, he has to go through a divorce. He's got to explain to the kids that he was in, but he's still cheating. He just does a better job of keeping it quiet.
I guess it's just how the younger generation perceives and handles that kind of situation.
So do you think that social media, like for instance, the sheer access and the influence of other people being just blunt as they ever can be on social media, it's the keyboard cowboy mentality, where they're behind the keyboard so they feel like they can, bear their true self, which I have no problem being honest with yourself and being honest with others. But to the point where you're like, yeah, man, like, I really just want to cheat on my boyfriend. And like, you just publicly, disclaiming that to the world. Do you think that the just sheer access is breaking down people's like compassion?
What do you mean? Like,
okay, so like for instance, when we were in high school, social media was still a thing, but
it wasn't
as crazy as it is now. And you heard stories of people getting cheated on.
Yeah.
But it wasn't...
It was pretty tight-lipped.
It was tight-lipped, though. And now, because people have they don't care about hurting others, that now they're just like, no, I'm going to post about it on Twitter and just pray that my girlfriend doesn't see this.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, I would say it's because they have like an access to something, and I guess it's like unfortunately more relatable that people are like, yeah, okay, I can relate to what you're saying.
Well, I just find it funny that in an age where everybody is connected as much as they are, and you're still out here trying to like prevent others from seeing posts and things like that. Like, I mean, knowing that I could follow somebody that you don't follow. Let's say you're dating a girl and her and I have been friends for a long time. You don't end up following her on social media because that's not something that y'all wanted to do. or she hid the post. Like on Instagram, you can hide stories from people, which I'm just like, if you're gonna post a story, just post a story.
But they have that like close friends one.
Yeah, that close friends one where only your close friends can see, kind of thing.
That
but
one, that one I get though, because like, what if you just attained a fairly decent following, but it's like, hey, I want to post this kind of, not this thing that not everyone needs to see.
Well, I guess what I disagree with is because I heard a story of someone was like, oh yeah, I like, went out to Vegas and was out getting hammered all weekend in Vegas and was dancing and dressed provocatively, I guess you could say. And she was like, oh, I just hid it from like my uncle who was on the podcast, and she, it was his niece or whatever. It was Charlemagne the God, and and his like niece is a part of this podcast, like helps him produce this podcast with Andrew Schultz. And so, he knew that she went to Vegas. She was like, no, I just hid those posts from you so that you wouldn't see. And I'm just like, if you're going to post it on social media, you might as well just have it. Like, you just bear it all to see. If it's like a moment where, I was like, oh man, I wanted to share this, but I only wanted to share it with a few people, that's understandable.
Well, I guess she's a clown only because she brought it up.
Right.
Like, if you were going to hide it, why even mention it at all? What is the point of them even saying this? Now, what are your thoughts on Sinstas?
Oh, I'm not even... The fact that I even know what that is drives me crazy.
I saw someone's like profile the other day, and they like had their Sinsta linked, and like...
What's the point?
It's just to live... It's like posting your crazy stuff, but like you're kind of the curator of who gets to see it. It makes sense, but it's really ridiculous. You almost wish that there was like another platform specifically for this, and not like, okay, here's Instagram daytime mode, and then here's Instagram after dark. Like, why not just have like this after dark app exists on its own?
Do you remember Springform?
Yes. Dude, the fact that forms and like anonymous questions were a thing back in the day, and some of them, because there's like Curious Cat now, but they were really popular.
It was
like, in middle school.
Really popular. I had one, and I would like...
What was it called? Formspring?
Formspring, that's what it was. Not Springform, Formspring. And so for those of you that don't know, Formspring was this website that you created a profile, and then people would leave anonymous questions, and then you could respond to those questions, and your responses were public. And so people would, they would do like their greeting, and it would be like, hey, what's up? Like, let's talk, ask me anything or whatever. It was
kind of like Reddit AMAs before Reddit was really established.
And so then people would leave there, and obviously you have the people that are just trolls. They're like, oh, why are you big gay? Or like, you know what I mean? But then there were legitimate, like, oh, like, what's your favorite music or anything like that. And some people would get into, they would ask like some personal questions, but they would be able to ask it anonymous, and you could then go on people's and ask it anonymous kind of thing or whatever. And that was so popular.
Yeah.
And the anonymity,
I believe that's the word.
Is that how it's pronounced? Anonymity. That sounds right. The anonymity is lost with this, massive connectivity with people. There are ways to remain anonymous. You doing the Sinsta, I guess, is your best guess at trying to be like...
You're anonymous, but like not really, because everyone knows it's you who's able to see that.
What's so funny? Do you know many kids our age that have Sinstas?
I knew somebody that had one for, I want to say a while, but it was like a couple years back, and I don't think they still use it. At least, I mean, I would have no idea because I'd never followed it. So I knew someone at one point that did.
I just think it's, looking back on if again, putting ourselves back into the days of if we were in high school now, throw up. I personally wouldn't have. I was always, if I didn't want my parents to see or whatever, I just wouldn't post it on the internet. But, I find it funny that most people who do have Sinstas are really just trying to hide it from their parents.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, some people not get away, but they own up to their stuff. And
well, as an adult, if you're an adult, oh, Mom, you don't like me drinking in Vegas? Well, that sucks. I'm 28 years old.
Yeah, I feel like if you're like 21 and over, like, what's the worst stuff you could be posting on a semi-public
Right.
account.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm not.
do you ever like find yourself being talked about on the like Forum Springs and stuff? Like on those anonymous Q&As?
I don't think so.
I saw my name like brought up a couple times. And it was because the person I was seeing at the time, like people were just kind of like asking like, "Oh, who are you seeing?" And
Oh, yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
deal,
Yeah. Now that you say that.
I always felt that was weird.
Or are you and so dating? And then you like anonymously comment like, yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah, that's me. What are your thoughts on like access to achieving success via social media?
I think right now in the time we're in is the best opportunity to seek creative endeavors.
Yes, I agree. I will amend that just a little bit by saying I think it's the best time, but I also think it's creating the worst people.
Right. It's just interesting to think how many people are getting their startups off of, either parody stuff, satire material, or just kind of something funny. Like, the song Old Town Road, right? That guy, me and Jern were talking about it today, but that guy now has this viral song, has probably made several millions off of it, all off of making a song that was a Red Dead Redemption 2 parody track. And now he's got Billy Ray Cyrus on board. Like, it's a really interesting story for that guy. Basically using social media and, he made it.
Well,
all within like a year's time
I think
span.
that the fact that you're able to do that is great. But the problem is when something like that happens, to just some random dude. Like, I mean, Lil Nas X was a rapper, right? I mean, he was a rapper that was trying to make it in the game and happened to do this, like, created this song or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it blows up and it takes him somewhere that he wasn't ever expecting. But then on the flip side, you have a whole legion of people that are trying so desperately to get to that.
Doing whatever it takes.
Like doing whatever it takes to become famous. To achieve success on like the grand stage.
There's this guy, I used to see him on my feed a lot, but I have kind of recently stopped going on Instagram because my phone isn't sending me Instagram notifications, and it might just be a blessing in disguise because I've kind of been off social media a little bit more lately.
Yeah, same.
Where there's this guy named Supreme Patty.
Oh, dude, I know who you're talking about.
Squirt lemon in his eyes, and it's like, dude.
And
who is this for?
He was always flexing with major Supreme gear, and he somehow has just thousands of dollars in cash.
Right.
And you're just like, what are you doing?
And like he has, put out some singles and stuff. And I've listened to some of the tracks and they're fine. Like they're not amazing. It's got a good producer, but at what cost do you just, shelve your dignity for some clout?
Well, that's where I think people are becoming the worst, is because they have no sense of shame anymore. I mean, we talked about this like a week ago or so. The kids that are just, taking people's iPhones and throwing them into water or swallowing someone's AirPod. Like, we are losing sight of like treating people like human beings. I don't think that we've gotten to a point now where it's all about the self. It's all about, I'm going to make it to the top and I'm going to cut as many people out of my way as possible until I get there.
Or even put danger to myself.
And most of these people don't get there. That's the other sad thing, is that you see these people that are trying so hard to boost their social media, whatever, and they're doing these things that are compromising their beliefs and compromising the way. I mean, just come on. You don't need to make a fool of yourself for potentially millions of people to see. But what's even worse is you're making yourself look like a fool for 25 people to see.
The thing is also, like, when you get known for doing that ridiculous stuff and then you try and put out, maybe something you're really passionate about, like music or whatever, only a handful of people are going to pay attention to the stuff you're actually wanting to put out, and the other ones are kind of a mentality of like dance monkey dance. Like
Logan Paul is a prime example of that.
he's wild.
But had these videos, was acting a fool, and then started to do music and wanted people to take him seriously as a musician. And it's like, how do we take you seriously as a musician when we have a whole host of videos of you looking like a dummy?
Right. I will say though, on the contrary to like all the negative stuff, like I think it is really fascinating. Like I just shared this with Germ earlier today, but it got brought up on my feed. There's an 8-year-old who is producing beats, and I gotta hand it to the kid. I mean, like for 8 years old, like it sounded all
His
right.
beat slap.
They were all right. And, he's just out there. You can tell this kid loves doing what he does.
See, and that's cool.
And in like 8 years' time when he's like,
going to be the next Dr. Dre.
Like, he's going to have it down.
Yeah.
And the kid looks so happy on the video, and he's just like, oh, yeah, here's a new beat I put out. And he's like feeling his own beat. And like, yeah, kid, like you go and do your thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like the amount of, technology and programs that are available, I think we're like in the gold rush of like, if you were young and you have creative pursuits you want to, like, you just got to go out and do it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm all for, following your dreams. And I guess I worry that because being famous and achieving success via something as no one would think, if you were to ask, 10 years ago, you were to take some of these people that have made, David Dobrik, for instance, makes like a fortune off of his YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. And you were like, hey, this person is going to be making more than the highest paid CEO in the country. And, just based off of making videos and posting them online. Those people would laugh in your face.
Right.
It's like that is unheard of. This thing is unheard of 10 years ago.
The thing with the 8-year-old also, I was thinking like, man, what was I doing when I was 8?
I was outside playing with my friends when I was 8. Wouldn't trade it for the world.
But some people have that drive that they want to just do their thing.
Well, the one thing I wish I would have started drums earlier.
Explain that. Elaborate on that.
Well, it's one of those things where I didn't start late. I started playing drums when I was like, I think 10 or 12. So it's not too far off. But if I would have been able to start at, a young age with like an instructor, or, start at a young age and really get like a good solid base in, I would be, 10 years ahead of where I am now on a skill level.
I think about that too with my other interests. Like, I really enjoy doing the podcast stuff. And I think, man, if I were to start this back like 4 years ago, like seeing maybe where that could have, happened. But I'm also of the mind that, something led to this moment.
Well, and I also,
this thing.
I mean, if we would have, let's say we would have started this 4 years ago, what would we have had to talk about? I think that we've, experienced in the last, almost 7 years since we've graduated? No, 6 years since we graduated.
Yeah.
I mean, we've experienced and grown as human beings and as men so much to the point where, I actually do have, not saying that I'm this old, grand, wise person, but I do have insight. I have insight into life experiences that I've learned from, and the life experiences that I have learned from has allowed me to, look at my life now differently and plan accordingly. And I think that, like you said, we led to this point for a reason. But I do see where you're coming from. Like graphic design, for instance, like if you would have been into graphic design when you were in high school.
Well, it was only available senior year, but like if I just knew about it sooner. Yeah. But I also didn't have the equipment to, do that on my own time because, we had like one semi-functional home computer that really only ran the internet and Microsoft Office.
Right.
So not enough to, and
paint and pinball,
not enough to do like video effects and all that stuff, which is where I had to, take my money and put it into stuff I wanted to pursue.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's another thing too. You see these videos of these kids And, for me, I watch a lot of drum videos on Instagram, and you see these kids that are like 12, 13 years old with an $8,000 drum set and a $12,000 studio setup, and you're like, oh,
Must be nice.
cool, must be nice. I never had that. I had a $200 drum set in my garage for 3 years, 4 years. Things sounded like garbage cans with Tupperware lids on them.
Yeah, I have a big pride in the equipment that I have now, just because I know like everything that I have in my room is stuff that I've purchased and worked for.
Yeah, that you've worked for, and I'm at that point now where...
Also, nothing's on a loan, so it's literally in my possession.
Yeah, that TV, Xbox, computer, all this stuff that you have.
Like the bank doesn't own it.
It's yours.
Mine.
Yeah, straight up yours. That's a cool feeling too, is, when you're... Like, I would love to keep the car that I have now and pay it off, because I think that, just to have a car in my possession that I could do whatever I wanted with and don't have to worry, if I totaled it the next day, I'm not still paying money on a car that I can't even drive. Yeah. Or if I sell it, that's at that time, I sell it and can get 12 grand out of it or whatever, and go drop that on that full down payment on a car, and not have to worry about, oh, well, I sold it for 12, but I got to pay off 6 grand of it to the bank, and I'm only netting 6 grand on it or whatever. And I just think it's cool to own.
Yeah,
to own
working for it and then obtaining it.
Yeah, yeah. Have you had any good like hypotheticals lately? I've been trying to come up with like a good one, because the last week's was the killer snail.
There was a snail on my porch when I got here.
Get out of here.
And he was just strolling along. And hey, man, he had some speed on him.
Made me rethink my whole argument.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he made his way across in decent time. I just squatted down to him just to kind of check him out.
You're like, "What's up, Harvey?
Hey.
What it do, boo?"
I was thinking of some today.
Hypothetical time.
Now I will offer you one of two. Do you want a ridiculous one, or do you want kind of like just weird one?
Let's go both. We got enough time.
All right. So, if you had the ability to Thanos Snap something from existence and make it vanish forever, what would it be? Now, to kind of set some rules, this can't be debt. You can't wipe away your debts. It has to be kind of like a physical thing or an obtainable thing. So in my mind, it's just some things to get the ball rolling. Let's say you wanted a specific genre of music to go away forever, or a song in existence, a movie, a TV show, maybe an ice cream flavor. I don't know.
See, the problem is you only get one snap.
One snap to do it. And it could be out of your own selfish and petty reasons to get rid of this, or maybe you feel like you're doing some kind of, just in the world like the boy Thanos does.
Dang. You should go first on this one.
See, I've been thinking about it, but I still don't know. And for some reason, my mind goes to mint ice cream because I think it's awful.
See, it's funny you mentioned music, and my mind went to country music.
You would wipe away country?
I would literally wipe the face of the earth with country music.
You would just see those little dust particles fly.
All of it, dude.
I think there's some okay country.
No, man. Country music is the one kind of music that I just absolutely can't stand. Because then once it no longer sounds like the twang in your voice and you got it going like this, as soon as it stops sounding like that, it's not country anymore. It's alternative music. It's pop music. So like new stuff by Taylor Swift. Remember when Taylor Swift was country and then suddenly her album was like not, I don't consider that country. Even when it was like some people, oh, it's a hybrid country. No, it's not. It's not country anymore.
So you would...
Straight up.
You're getting...
Well, that was when you said music. That was the first thing. You were like, oh, it could be a show, could be a movie, could be music.
Or because you're a hipster, you could vanish away those AirPods from existence. But then you don't have them.
Then I don't have them. If I could be the only person on the face of the earth that had them, then yeah, totally.
I think you're supreme hipster.
Then I'm supreme overlord AirPod.
But the thing is, like, because like an AirPod doesn't exist, doesn't mean that other companies wouldn't make like a
Yeah.
rivaling product.
Well, okay. I mean, what about if I could get one snap for like, each, I guess, the hypothetical is one snap. Dang, that's a toughie.
Yeah. And it has to be like a
It tangible thing, right?
Yeah, it goes away.
Like I couldn't be like, oh, I would like to snap away,
poverty.
Evil. Yeah, like,
yeah.
oh, I would snap away hatred.
Yeah, no, that doesn't
racism.
Happen. It has to be like a actual object. And my mind kind of went to things that, like I said, are obtainable or you can't purchase.
Yeah. Maybe Priuses?
Really?
No.
I would say you'd have to like really hate Priuses to.
Right. I would snap
Thanos
away dually diesel trucks.
What do you mean by that?
The guys that have their super lifted
oh my god
diesel truck, and it's a dually. You know what a dually is? It's got 2 wheels on the back on each side.
Oh.
And then it's got the 2 in the front. So it's like 6 wheels.
So this is getting hit with the snap.
I don't know, man. I mean, if your country music is up there, though. I probably hate country music more than I hate dually trucks.
Wow. Even people that enjoy, you're taking enjoyment out of people's lives.
I don't care.
You got the gauntlet.
I don't care. If I have the power to snap away, some people are going to suffer. You live long enough to see yourself become the hero, or whatever. You die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Like,
I feel like in any case with the snapping, someone's getting upset about it.
Okay, well, how are they going to know it's me?
I know, but just like the fact, like I like to think
lots of people are going to be upset about it.
I like to think that the person in the truck is like at a stoplight, and then he just
it just turns to dust,
and he's just standing there like, oh god.
Someone's going through a breakup, and they're listening to oh darling, I don't know, I'm not a singer, country music,
and then
all of a sudden dust particles come out their ears, and they're like, wait, what was I just listening to?
That's a crazier thing too, is like if it goes away in its existence and people have memory of it, or it just never existed in the first place.
Right.
Either way,
I mean, if you're following the Thanos rule, those people
all have memory.
Existed, and they all had memory of it.
For me, I think, I don't know why, but my mind just goes to chocolate mint ice cream.
Yeah.
But like, do I truly hate it that much to see it go away?
That's a steep order, bro. That's because chocolate mint ice cream is not that bad.
It's gross.
I wouldn't choose it, but I also wouldn't, like, if I had one snap, I wouldn't waste it on wiping the earth from an ice cream flavor.
I know that. I just don't know why that's where my mind goes.
Right. That's funny. What about, like, oh man, I'm trying to think, like, if you could snap away, if you could erase from existence a video game.
I feel like I don't play bad video games, though.
What about a trend?
A trend?
Like, if you can snap away leg warmers.
I mean, they had their purpose.
Well, okay. What would be like a trend? Like, I would, like, you could snap away.
Are you talking like clothing trends or like?
Well, just like a trend in like like the early 2000s trend of like super baggy jeans, a polo, and a visor. Like, if you could snap away like a whole trend.
I mean, if we're talking about that, my clothes would vanish because I used to have the really baggy jeans.
Of course.
And a polo.
I shopped at Hollister at one point.
Man, I
got like ripped jeans, and they were super baggy, and they were all had holes in them.
No. I'm talking South Pole.
Oh gosh,
like your shorts
some
might as well.
Rockaware, like
yes,
some Echo.
Yeah,
Echo Unlimited.
Yeah, the original streetwear before like Babe came out.
Yeah. Well, back when streetwear was like, I'm trying to conceal this faux 5, if you know what I'm saying.
Dude, South Pole clothing was ridiculous. I think they've like really rebranded, but like, man, they would sell shorts and they were like capris.
The best look. What was Britney Spears' husband's name? Kevin
Federline.
Kevin Federline. Oh no, that dude's style was whack.
I think the iconic like early 2000s was the Soulja Boy look.
Yeah, Soulja Boy, or like 50 Cent.
I feel like everyone knew somebody that looked like that.
The video, I just saw a video. It was 50 Cent and Jay-Z, and it was a commercial that they did in like 97 for a shoe brand, and it was like a 45-second rap that they wrote to promote this shoe brand. And this was like a commercial that they showed on TV. And their clothes, man, they had the do-rag with the visor that was tipped upside down, like 2 shirts, and they were really long, and then the baggy jeans, and like the, and it was this super, like it was like just a, it was like a real, you were like, oh yeah, I knew exactly what time that was.
Is there a moment in your past where you dressed in a certain way that you wish you could just wipe that from existence?
Yes. 7th and 8th grade, I was in an emo phase and attempted to wear the skinniest jeans possible. And my friend, whose gender will remain unnamed, lent me
Unidentified
pants that were purple.
Oh, I know where this is
And
going.
I couldn't even get my butt into the pants, but I wore them to school nonetheless.
What made you do that?
It was the kids that I had when I first moved to Washington, and the kids that I started hanging out with.
Were those scene
They
kids?
were the scene kids, the emo kids.
See, I never went full scene. I hung out with some scene kids, but like my style was never all black. I don't know. I think I was like more into like the skater fit than like wearing band t-shirts.
Yeah, and I was a
skinny
big
jeans.
band t-shirt.
So yeah, I never fully like converted into scene. There was a time where like I had really long hair and it would kind of like I never like put it over my eye because I thought that was ridiculous. Like why would I,
purposefully cover my eye?
Yeah, why I already have bad vision.
Right.
Why am I gonna do this to myself?
I tried to grow my hair out, but I could only ever get the Justin Bieber look. Where it was like a bowl, like an upside down bowl, but it like had waves, and you could like flip it with a stupid crank of your neck, like you got Tourette's.
So many people were into the hair flip.
Yeah, man, it was a big thing. So if you're gonna, if I had to choose one style to like wipe from memory, that would probably be it.
I think for me it would be the South Pole look with polo.
Yeah, but it was the early 2000s,
Everyone was doing it, but I just can't think like, man, how ridiculous.
You also didn't hit the scene phase as hard as I did.
Right.
I never got to the point where I was wearing makeup or anything like that. You know what I mean? But I bet you if I would have gone down a different path, I probably would be a whole different person.
I feel like a lot of the scene kids really had to come up though.
Some of them.
Well, I'm not really saying people that like we knew, but there's occasionally on Twitter a thing will be like scene transformation, and they'll have all the people that like were scene kids and what they look like now, and it's like a 10-15 year time jump. And I don't know, everyone kind of looks like tattoo artists.
Well, I think you have your phases, right? Like, I mean, scene was a phase, and some people, they stay scene for the rest of their lives.
It's not a phase.
It's not a phase, it's a lifestyle, bro. You have those people, but then you have those kids that were like, oh man, I was just trying to fit in high school, and
I thought that was it.
I thought that was it, and then when I graduated college, I just was a different. Like, I mean, even looking at the difference of my style from when I was in high school to now, it's even then it was like, oh, this is way different.
I feel like I've just gotten more hipster.
Yeah, I think I've just gotten more comfortable with what I wear.
Me too.
Like, I'm like, oh, this, I never rocked a jean jacket up until recently. Because I was like, oh man, I never look good in a jean jacket. I've never been one to like buy a leather jacket. I had a leather jacket at one point and thought I looked like a ridiculous person.
Would you think you look like a biker?
Well,
a bad biker?
Maybe someone that was trying too hard. Because it was like big on me.
You got to get them right.
You got to get them right fits, right?
Yeah.
And I've always been, into like suit wear and stuff. But then that was a big part of when I was working at the bank. I was spending my money on suits. And so then I got into this whole, and that's one thing too. If I had money to drop on like clothes, right? If someone said like, hey, you got 25 grand to drop on just clothes and shoes, I would buy a couple of nice suits, like tailored suits, James Bond fit to the nines, like really nice custom made suits. And then I would wear them all the time. I really enjoy being dressed up like that.
I've never done it enough, so I'm not really into it.
Because I got even into the point where you're like looking at, various accessories that you can get
With the suit.
Yeah, I have like a lapel flower that you can that you pin to your, and then it's like, and all of the accessories match. You got like a tag for the tie that holds it to the shirt, and then you got a pocket square, and then you can even go as far as getting like cufflinks down on your wrists and
Custom ones.
yeah, and custom made shirts that have different cuts and the suit jackets, and then once I got into it, then I started to notice. If you watch, like Gotham is a great example. They have sick suits in Gotham, like the Riddler. The character who plays the Riddler, when he's not the Riddler, but then there are moments where he's not fully the Riddler yet, but he's got some cool suits. I'm like, oh, that's a dope jacket.
You want that?
I like the cut of that jacket. And someone's like, what? Like, you see the way that the lapel goes down and it comes and fans out, and there's only 2 buttons, and I can spot different.
You lost them at that point,
right? Like they're like, I see a suit jacket. It's got a design on it. He's got something hanging out of his pocket in the front. I'm like, yeah, but that's a specific fold. It's meant to look like a rose. And they're like, wait a minute, what? Like, I'd lose people. Aaron, my brother, and I will just have conversations because he got into suits a little bit too. And it was Easter Sunday. We went to Cracker Barrel and we were at the dinner table, and him and I were just trying to fold our pocket squares different ways. And my mom took a picture. It was funny.
So let me.
Yeah, what's your other hypothetical?
We
got on a weird rabbit hole there.
Let me set the stage for this one. It requires a little bit of world building, but stay on board with me because it's quite fascinating. So, you stumble upon a genie, and in traditional genie form, he asks you, I'd say he tells you, hey, I'm a genie. What are your 3 wishes? What do you say? Off cap, what are 3 things you want?
First, I would wish for unlimited wishes.
That's not an option.
Okay. What about making him my slave?
Are you Aladdin now? Just pick 3.
All right, fine. I would wish for financial stability.
Okay.
For me and my family.
Okay.
Never have to worry about money ever again. And then it comes into well, if I don't have to worry about money, I can do all of that without a wish. So then I would start wishing for things like, because if I have unlimited money, then you can start taking care of problems, and then at that point you really don't have to worry. So then I would start doing I would wish that there is no more, poverty in foreign states or whatever, and then probably a limited amount of knowledge.
Okay. So now this is where the real hypothetical comes in. Now the genie pulls a fast one on you and says, instead of 3 wishes, I'm going to let you pick 1, but instead the inverse of whatever of those 3 wishes happens, the opposite's going to happen of it. And you can pick one of the 3, whatever's the least.
Oh, dang. Oh, dang.
Least worst case scenario for you. Now what do you do?
Well, selfishly, I would say, ending poverty in foreign countries, third world countries.
So it just gets worse for
them? It
them?
just gets worse.
Oof.
Because that doesn't affect me. That would be my initial, it's not affecting me on a direct.
Yeah.
Because that's not right. Because, if you wish for, what's the inverse of a limited amount of knowledge as being...
You lose knowledge.
A limited amount of being a dummy. And then, obviously I don't want the opposite of financial security.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a good one.
Yeah, I pitched that to a coworker, and he got real in the beginning. People will get happy to think about hypothetical stuff, and then I told him all right, now flip that.
Yeah.
What do you think now? And he's like,
dang,
because his thing was kind of going in a materialistic sense. At least some of them were, but then one of them he's like, oh, I would really like to get knowledge of AI technology and how to build that so that I can become successful. I'm like, well,
at least he was specific, because then you're just like, oh, well, what's the opposite of learning about AI? Unlearning about all of AI. And then you're like, great, that's at least limited to that specific, I guess in that, typically with wishes, if you were like, oh, I'm going to, grant me wishes.
Everyone goes to the unlimited wishes.
But they also go to the
money,
the broad, for me, I want to be as broad as possible, but then not too broad to the point where like, where you're like, oh man, I would wish to be big and strong. And then he's like, great, you're going to be big and strong one day before you die. Your wish is going to come true. So you're like, I would like to grow now. Then you're like, oh, okay, well, he has to grant it more specifically. Right. But for me to be like, oh, I just want financial success and never have to worry about money ever again. And he's like, great, well, all your bills are paid for the rest of your life. Then I'm like, great, I still have to work. I have no problem with working and earning money, but all of the money that I would earn would then just go into my savings account, not having to worry about bills.
Yeah, it's
But then you flip on it and you're like, well, crap. I don't want to be, so poor that I can't even eat food.
I made a grave mistake.
What would be...
I can't answer that question because I pitched it.
You know what I mean? Like, no, you can't be like, oh, well, I would wish for these. You're biased now.
Yeah.
So actually, that's a good thing. I had an interesting thought the other day. So I was listening to a song, and this rapper is going off, and then at the end of the song, it's like middle of the verse cuts out with like the sound of like a car crash.
Oh.
And when I heard that for the first time, when I was listening to it, I wasn't picturing him in the car. I was just picturing him in the studio rapping, right?
And he just like sampled the car crash or something.
Yeah. So then once I heard the car crash and I ran it back, I started to picture what the music video would be like. And the music video shows him bumping in the car, rapping, going off or whatever, and then, going out with the car crash. That's what's ending the song. So the thought that I had was, you listen to something for the first time, and then you get an impression of something, and how difficult is it for you to then shake that impression that you've made once you've listened to the song, or like when you listen to it again, rather.
So
for this instance, right now I can't listen to that song without picturing the car crash.
Oh.
So I can't listen to the song without the picture of my impression of what that music video would be like, of him, bumping along, riding and rapping. I can't listen to that song now without picturing that.
That's kind of troubling.
It like how quickly your mind forms a connection, and then how strongly it holds on to that connection.
Yeah, now it's like, you'll always think of this.
Yeah, the only way that I won't think about it is if he comes out with a legitimate music video for that song and it's completely different. Then I would have a thought of like, oh, I can see this differently now that I've pictured the music video.
So there's no current video for it?
Not that I haven't even looked.
Oh.
But it was just that initial, and then, then I started to listen to the song, and kind of the theme of what he was talking about was that he's never going to go, or like that, he's always going to be on the top, or like his top, I guess. He's always going to do whatever he can to be the best in his field. And so then, then I started to think about, oh, well, like the car crash symbolizes him, the only way that he'll stop doing what he's doing is if he dies.
Oh.
So that, and then once I heard that, then I was like, okay, then the car crash, like, or the car riding in the car image is actually fitting, because, he's come to grips with the fact that, like, the only way I'm so good that the only way you're going to stop me is if I get into a car crash, and like a car crash stops me from rapping.
Wow.
But then again, once that has been formed in my brain, I can't listen to that song without picturing him riding around in a car.
It makes sense, though. I mean...
So, and that, you have framed the question of the genie.
Yes.
And knowing the inverse of it, and knowing that flip, your brain is automatically... Your biases are going to lie with, stuff that would flip to the advantage.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm like, hey, man, you have 3 wishes... that eventually the genie's going to pull a fast one on you. You're like, okay, great. I wish to be poor. I wish to have no friends, and I wish to have no love in my life. And then the genie's like, all right, cool. Inverse of that. And you're like, great. I wish the inverse of no love in my life to have unlimited love in my life.
But then a genie's a genie. He's like, all right, which one's coming true?
Yep, you got your wish. I thought you said it was going to be the inverse. I lied.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun question to kind of play around with.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about, hypothetical questions can be,
Whatever.
like with a would you rather, like, oh, would you rather be, have a big pocket on your stomach with a little baby kangaroo in it all the time, or would you rather live inside of the pocket of a big giant kangaroo? Those hypotheticals are like, oh yeah, that's...
Well, those are like just kind of so because they have a straightforward answer.
But these ones get you to think about, like last week's, we had a 20-minute conversation about Harvey the snail.
You're right.
Some of these questions, that's what I love about it is, and that's why I would, I love to keep this as a regular segment, like a reoccurring segment in our show.
It's great because it really reflects on the person too, like where they come from. It's one thing to get the answer, but those answers are coming from a certain place.
Yeah, I think it's, with me and not fearing death and us having that conversation about like, would you take all, like, what was it, like $25 million, but then only having 5 years to live or whatever? You remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I was talking with my dad, and my dad was like, I just thought it was cool the way that you answered that, because you were coming from a perspective of like knowing that you're going to go to heaven, or at least you believe that you're going to go to heaven, right? And so I was like, yeah, it changes the way that I would think about those circumstances, rather than if we were to ask someone who fears death and doesn't think that there's anything after death. They're like, well, I don't know if I would take that, because then I am cutting my life short by 5 years. Whereas me, I'm like, yeah, cut my life short. I'll spend that $25 million in 5 years and then go out like a king. Like, do it. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Hypothetical time
Is over.
This has been another hypothetical time. You want to call it?
I do.
All right, man.
This has been fun.
Till next week.
Until next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.